Okay, so in the last class, no, I told you a story basically about Nelson Mandela and South Africa, how there was a system of apartheid, which means governing with a difference or separating people based on the color of their skin and governing them accordingly. So that was a system which was adopted in South Africa. And after many years of struggle, they were able to get independence from this kind of apartheid government, and they formed their own separate government by putting in their own constitution. So that was the story of South Africa, and Mr. Nelson Mandela was a very important part of this. And once he came out of jail, he became the first president of South Africa. So the South African example is a good way to understand why we need a constitutions and what do constitutions actually do. The oppressor and the oppressed. The oppressor in this case were the white South African government, and the oppressed were the black people of South Africa. In this new democracy, were planning to live together as equals. They were going to live in this country as equals, no difference between the blacks and the whites. It was not going to be easy for them to trust each other. They had their fears. They wanted to safeguard their interests. The black majority was keen to ensure that the democratic principle of majority rule was not compromised. They wanted substantial social and economic rights, whereas the white minority was keen to protect their privileges and property. So, before this constitution, before South Africa became independent, the black people were very, very oppressed. They did not have equal rights as that of the whites. So, once this constitution was being adopted, the yes, sir.
Sir, what is the meaning of oppressor?
Oppressor means a person who is always put down and tortured and made difficult to live. His life is basically made difficult. That is the meaning of oppressed. And the person who is doing that to him is called as the oppressor.
Okay, sir.
Okay, yeah. So the black people in South Africa, they were very keen to see that they would get equal rights, equal economic rights in the new government, in the new South Africa. And the white people who were in minority actually, they were very keen to ensure that whatever rights they enjoyed earlier, those would not go away. Their properties would not be taken away by the new government, and their privileges would not be taken away. They were okay with being treated to the blacks, but they did not want to lose anything that they were enjoying at present. So that was the situation in South Africa. After long negotiations, both parties agreed to a compromise. Both the blacks and the whites, they agreed to a compromise. Yes.
Sir, maybe
What is that?
Sir, maybe is trying to join.
Yeah, Neve basically has to come to school and meet the principal. There are lots of complaints against Neve. That is the reason why we are not letting him into the class. His LMS has been blocked. He has to come to the school with his parents and meet the principal. You can inform that to me. Yeah. So after long negotiations, both parties agreed to a compromise. The whites agreed to the principle of majority rule and that of one person, one vote. They also agreed to accept some basic rights for the poor and the workers. So there was a lot of compromise being done so that both the parties, that is the blacks and the whites, they would be able to live properly without fighting with each other. They also agreed to accept some basic rights for the poor and the workers. The blacks agreed that majority rule would not be absolute, means it would not be absolutely only the blacks who would be ruling the entire country. It would be a mixture of both the black people and the white people. They agreed that the majority would not take away the property of the white minority. This compromise was not easy. So, how was this compromise actually going to be implemented? The implementation of this compromise between the blacks and the whites would be possible only and only if there would be a proper constitution in place, if there would be a proper framework in place. Only then it would be possible. Even if they manage to trust each other, what was the guarantee that this trust would not be broken in the future? There must be some kind of a guarantee. What if in future somebody goes back on their word, this trust would be broken? What would happen then? So the only way to build and maintain trust in such a situation is to write down some rules of the game that everyone would abide by. These rules would lay down how the rulers are to be chosen in the future. It is very simple, students. See, I can give you a very nice example for this so that you are able to understand this idea of this constitution or the situation in South Africa much more easily. All you students would have, whenever you were earlier coming to school and you are going to play a game of volleyball, or either you are going to play a game of cricket or a gully cricket, right? The boys will be able to recognize this. Whenever you're going to start a game of gully cricket, first of all you set the ground rules. You tell that one tippa is out, correct? And then any shot of the ball outside the compound or hitting any window or something, that would be out. So these rules you set, right?
Yes, sir.
We do that, right? So these are ground rules we set whenever we go out for a game to play with our friends. Before we start the game, we set these rules and say that aisa nahi karna hai, aisa karna hai. These are the rules. Any violation of these rules, anything goes out here and all, you will be out of the game. Those are the rules which is set. So in a very similar fashion, in South Africa also they set these rules, but of course it was for the entire nation, not only for a single game or something, but for the entire nation. This rule was set, and this rule was called as the constitution. This framework was set so that everybody is able to live happily and there would not be conflict between people. These rules will work only if the winner cannot change them very easily. Means these rules are always something which will work only if it cannot be changed like this. Now, say for example, in your gully cricket, you make a rule that once the ball bounces and one catch is taken, it would be out. Normally, you would say that ek tippa out, correct? In gully cricket. Hmm. Now, if somebody says that nahi nahi ye ek tippa nahi chahiye re, we will make it two tippa out because he is not able to catch ball properly. He says two tippa out. ये क्या मजा आ गया? There is no fun in that, no. So the rules should be set in such a way that it cannot be changed easily. They agreed on some basic rules. They also agreed that these rules will be supreme, means at the topmost. Supreme means at the topmost, most important set of rules. Above everything are these rules, that is the constitution. That no government will be able to ignore these, and this set of basic rules is what we call as a constitution. Any law which is to be made in the country will be within this constitution. It cannot be made outside the constitution. Any event which has to be happening in the country would be within the constitution. It cannot be outside the constitution. That is how the constitution is. That is the most important meaning of the constitution, is that it is the outside skeleton. It is the forming skeleton which holds everything together. Without that, we cannot make laws, we cannot set any other kind of rules. That is the basic set of rules. That is the meaning of the constitution. So, constitution meaning is not, constitution making is not unique to South Africa. Every country has diverse groups of people. Their relationship may not have been as bad as that of the whites and the blacks in South Africa, but all over the world, people have differences of opinions and interests. Yes, ma'am? Hmm. Tell him to come to school with parents and meet Sunita ma'am. That is why his LMS is blocked. No, no, let him meet Sunita ma'am. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, students, are you able to hear me? My PC seems to have hung over here.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the presentation
The
also is
screen is black.
visible. Screen is black, is it?
Sir, present is not. Yes, sir. The presentation is looking black.
What about
Sir,
now?
now it is came.
It has come, na? Okay, ठीक है. Yeah.
Yes, sir, it came now.
Yeah. So this making of constitution, no, it's not something which would be done only in India or only in South Africa. Constitutions are made by all the governments in the world. Now it depends upon the government how true they are to the constitution. It depends upon the government to see that whatever laws they make are within the framework of the government. Is that constitution only for namesake, or is that constitution really being implemented in that country? That depends upon the government. So whether democratic or not, most countries in the world need to have these set of basic rules, that is the constitution. This applies not only just to governments, it also applies to associations. To have a constitution, it could be a club in your area, a cooperative society, or a political party. These all need something which is called as a constitution. So these rules are something which is a part of our life. You cannot expect to have a school without basic rules. At what time to come to school, what uniform to wear, how do you come to school. These are all the basic set of rules that you have in our school. So, similarly, any other institution, it could be a factory, it could be a shop, it could be a bank, it could be anything. Any institution will always be run by these basic set of rules. And this set of rules is something within which only the association or that country or the government will function. They cannot function outside those set of rules. So, thus, the constitution of a country is a set of written rules that are accepted by all people living together in a country. Constitution is the supreme law that determines the relationship among people living in a territory, and also the relationship between the people and the government. This is a relationship. The constitution does many things. First, it generates a degree of trust and coordination that is necessary for different kinds of people to live together. Second, it specifies how the government will be constituted, how the government is going to be made, what type of a government is going to be had in that country, who will have the power to take which decisions. Third, it lays down limits on the powers of the government and tells us what the rights of the citizens are. We have fundamental rights. If you remember what you learned last year, we have fundamental rights: the right to freedom, the right to equality, the right to religion, the constitutional amendment rights. So many rights we have which are given to us by the constitution. Fourth, it expresses the aspirations of the people about creating a good society. What the aspirations, what the dreams of the people are, the dreams of the people of India, the dreams of the people of South Africa. What are these dreams? All these dreams and aspirations are stated in the constitution. So once the constitution document of any country is read, people will come to know how this country is actually being run, how this government of the country is formed, what are the dreams of the people of this country, what do they want to do for their future. That is the main aim of the constitution. Is everything clear till now? Does anybody has have any doubts?
Yes.
Yes,
So
sir.
why did not blacks think of moving the whites?
Yeah, what was that?
So why did not the blacks think of moving the whites?
About putting the whites on,
Of ruling the whites?
ruling the whites. Then again the country will go back to same situation, no? What it was earlier. Earlier the whites were ruling over the blacks, and then now after independence the blacks rule over the whites. So how can the country be happy? How will people be happy? You need to have a situation where everyone is happy. See, the white people, even though small in number, they were as much a part of South Africa as the blacks because they were there in that country for more than 400 years. So you cannot just kick them out of the country and tell them this is our country, you people go out. They have been living there for more than 400 years, generations together. Their grandfathers, their great grandfathers, all these people were a part of that country. So that is why it was very important that both the blacks and the whites would have to find a way to live together happily without one person ruling over the other. So that was the most important part over here for South Africa. So when they are able to do it successfully, that is a success of having a constitution. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So all the countries that have constitutions are not necessarily democratic countries. That you need to keep in mind. You should not think that once a country has a constitution, this country is a democratic country. That is not the situation. But yes, all democratic countries do have a constitution. All countries that are democratic, they will have a constitution. After the War of Independence against Great Britain, we are talking about the Americas here. The Americas,
Cutting.
what is cutting, Re Baba? Cutting some paper or something? No? What is cutting? Is
Sir, he is
my
telling your voice is cutting.
my voice is breaking?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. One, sir.
Is my voice clear now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now it is clear. Okay. So after the War of Independence against Great Britain, the Americas gave themselves a constitution. After the revolution, the French people approved a democratic constitution. This you have already learnt in your French Revolution. They got the National Assembly came together and gave themselves a constitution, right? Since then, it has become a practice in all democracies to have a written constitution. So this was the entire story of how the South African constitution came into being and what is the importance of having a constitution. Now the next part is we will see how the Indian constitution actually came into being. How did we get the constitution that we have today? If you see, the Indian constitution also has gone through a similar kind of struggle like South Africa. Of course, here the problem was not of blacks and whites. Here the problem was of giving a constitution to this hugely diverse country of India. We know that we have a very diverse country. The variety of people that you find in one country of India alone, you will not find anywhere in the world. The number of religions that we follow, the different kinds of languages that we speak, the different kinds of traditions and customs that we have, our cultural diversity. So, this India of ours is such a hugely diverse country. It is an extremely difficult task to design a constitution where each and every individual or each and every citizen of our India would be happy. It is a very, 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 very difficult task. It is not a simple task. So, like South Africa, India's constitution was also drawn up under very difficult circumstances. The making of the constitution for a huge and diverse country like India was not an easy affair. At that time, the people of India were emerging from the status of subjects because before independence, each and every citizen of India, each and every person in India, they were subjects of the Queen of England. Right? They were subjects of the Queen of England. They were not citizens. They did not have the right to freedom. They did not have the right to equality. These rights were not there to them because they were all subjects of the Queen of England. And once India got its independence, their status was being changed from that of subjects to that of citizens, wherein a citizen is a person who has his own voice. His voice can be heard, he can take decisions for himself. He is a person of his own. That is the meaning of a citizen. So the country was born through a partition on the basis of religious differences. We all know that the differences between India and Pakistan. The Muslim people in India were instigated by the Britishers, and that is why they were in a position they wanted to have their own separate independent state. So the country was born through a partition on the basis of religious differences. It was a very, very traumatic experience for the people of both India and Pakistan. In your 8th standard, last year, lesson, or second last lesson in your history, if you all remember, you will be able to recollect how this partition between India and Pakistan was an extremely painful experience, how so many people died during this partition. I hope you are able to recollect that history part.
Okay.
Yeah, students.
Yes, sir.
So this partition between India and Pakistan, as I was saying, was an extremely traumatic experience, and many people lost their lives. Many people died during this partition, moving from India to Pakistan and
Okay,
moving from
sir.
Pakistan to India. Yes, tell me. Yeah, tell me,
Sir,
Ma, I'm
what is
listening.
the meaning of traumatic?
Traumatic means something which is going to cause you deep emotional pain, deep emotional and also sometimes physical pain. Just thinking about that experience of the partition itself makes people cry. That is called as traumatic experience. I can give you a small story over here. I remember the story of my grandfather during the part this time of this partition. He remembers how he was working in a small office in Mumbai, and my grandfather, he was a watchmaker. Watchmakers, they used to make watches. That was my grandfather in Mumbai. And they were so those watches that they would make, all these were all handmade watches, very beautifully made watches with small small parts. They would place them carefully and make these watches. The company that he would work for, this story I'm telling you of prior, before independence. Okay, he was a young man, my grandfather at that time, and he was working for this watchmaking company, which was actually run by a Muslim man in Mumbai. And during this partition, when this partition happened, the owner of that company, he decided to close shop and move to Pakistan because all of his relatives were moving that side. So he decided that he will close the shop and go to Pakistan. So that was the point of time where my grandfather actually lost his job. He lost his work, and since he was the only member working, for the family, he had no way to feed his children. He had 6 children. He had 7 children. My grandfather had 7 children. So my means my uncles and aunts. There were 7 uncles and aunts for me, and all of them. There was no food for them to eat for almost a week because there was no work for my grandfather. That was the situation. He tells me, this is the story that I remember as a small kid. He has told me about the partition. So this experience is some experience which will remain in your mind till the day you die. That kind of experience is a very difficult experience, a very painful experience. That is called as a traumatic experience. And many people who have experienced this partition, no, they remember those days of the partition for many many years. They will never forget it. They will never forget it. That is the kind of experience that's called as a traumatic experience. So at least 10 lakh people were killed on both sides of the border in partition related violence. People were fighting. People were moving from India to Pakistan, moving between in overcrowded trains. There were riots, there was fighting, houses were burnt, shops were burnt, and almost 10 lakh people on either side. Means almost 20 lakh people were killed in this violence. It's not a small number, it's a huge number, 20 lakh people. There was another problem. The British had left it to the rulers of the princely states to decide whether they wanted to merge with India or they wanted to merge with Pakistan. That was one very bad thing that the Britishers had done when they left. The merger of these princely states was a difficult and uncertain task. When the constitution was being written, the future of the country did not look as secure as it does today. The makers of the constitution had anxieties about the present and the future of the country. The situation which India was in after the independence was is a very different situation than the situation we have in today. Today, as a citizen of India, you feel very secure when you live in the country. When you go outside to the garden to play or inside your house compound to play with your friends, do you feel unsafe or do you feel secure? I'm asking this to my students.
Secure.
You feel secure, right?
Secure.
You feel secure, you feel safe. You know that this entire place is mine. Nobody is going to come here and harm me in any way. That is the site of kind of security that you feel over here. You feel safe. But that was, you know that once you go home, you are going to get a nice hot meal, you have a nice hot lunch and a hot warm dinner, and you are able to have a nice sound sleep at night without any kind of tension, any kind of worry. That is the kind of India that we have today. Correct. But right after independence, that was not the situation. People did not have education, they did not have schools to go to. There were hardly any hospitals, there were hardly any industries. Food was short, there was shortage of food. Milk would not be no, you would not get milk in the quantity that you get today. Now today, if you go into the market at any time, you will get 1 or 2 liters of milk easily. There is no problem. How much ever milk you want, you can buy in barrels also and keep milk at your home. But that was not the situation after independence. After independence, that was not the situation. It was a very different kind of situation after independence. People were not safe after independence. So it was up to the government of India to find out and design such a kind of a constitution which will build this nation up, which will build the nation of India right from the ground, brick by brick. Yes, sir?
Sir, before independence, we have more gold in our country. Sir, after independence, do we have gold in our country?
Before independence, whatever gold and all was there, everything was taken away by the Britishers. So after independence, we hardly had anything left. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so that's all for today. We have already come to the end of our class 10:30. Okay, so we will continue in the next class. Okay, is that right? Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, students.
Sir, bye.
Bye bye.